Excited. Thank you. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So our agenda for today, we're going to start off with a check-in, then we'll do some framing and introducing for our COPs, and then we will have two special guests join us to talk about a spotlight on faculty and staff mental health training initiatives. Then we'll share some resources related to that as well, and then we'll wrap up. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Erica to review the purpose and grounding for our COP.
Thanks, Stephanie. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. I know many of you I've seen a few times this week. So aren't we so lucky? So really appreciate you being here. Our community practice, again, it's a wonderful opportunity to come together and build community of care amongst our people and our staff and our campuses. We're all together supporting and advancing both of our strategies that we've developed together, the Kentucky Statewide Mental Health Strategy and KCTCS Mental Health Strategy. Great opportunity as well to share resources, ideas, and lived experiences. And we learn by doing. We're engaging Mentimeter, Zoom chat. We share campus examples. We share how we're feeling, opportunity to ask questions, reach out one-on-one for support. And last time we had the chance to hear from our guest speakers and explore the topic of substance misuse and recovery, highlighting collegiate recovery resource centers and their role in fostering and belonging and support. And we're really excited and delighted to focus on engaging faculty and staff in mental health training, a topic that's always on our minds. And how do we really build learning environments that reduce stigma, raise awareness of available supports, and help faculty balance their own well-being while supporting students? Again, another priority area in our strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Yeah, just good to know as we start off our COP. Now we're going to go into our check-in. I'm going to go ahead and put the Menti website and the code in there. Um, yeah, please let me know if you have any trouble accessing it, and give me a thumbs up once you're in there. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Marlana. All right, seeing some folks in there. And not to worry if it's not working for you. Feel free to use the chat function if that works for you as well.
Please share your name, role.
Oh yeah, and if you're logged in and all of that, please feel free to share your name, role, and institution in the chat so we can get to know each other. Although some of us already know each other, but if we haven't seen you before, we'd love to hear from you. Amazing. We have 13 folks in there, so we're gonna move along. Our first question is, place a pin on the weather stage that best describes your current initiatives for faculty and staff mental health training. With our topic today, we just want to see where you are. Are you in the cloudy stage? Maybe you're exploring ideas, maybe not yet launched. Are you in the sunny stage, or is training established and supported? Great, we already have some responses for partly sunny. Looks like some folks have initiatives underway. Participation is building. Are you drizzling? Are there early efforts and champions forming? Or are you clear and steady? Are there programs in place that are evaluated and maintained? All right, so it looks like a lot of folks are in the partly sunny stage. I always like to add this question so that we can just see, we have people in the same stage as us. Right. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. So our next question is what's one area of curiosity or difficulty you've encountered in implementing these trainings? Are you curious about buy-in, how to gain that support from administrators? Is time something you're exploring as you're building them? Maybe resources. Yep, we're already seeing engagement. Yeah, how to encourage that participation. Content. There's so many topics out there how you can approach this, so maybe you're curious about that. Sustainability, keeping those programs going, or is there something that's just not reflected here? So it looks like we have time in the lead. Yes, our faculty and staff have so much on their plates already. How do we build in that time? I'm also seeing resources. Yeah. Buy-in. It looks like all around. And thankfully, we'll be covering all of this today. And as always, if you're curious about something further and want one-on-one time, as Erica said at the beginning, feel free to chat us, okay? Right. So I'm going to bring us back to the deck. Thank you so much for participating. Now I'm going to hand it back to Erica to frame and introduce our COP.
Yeah, so I know a lot of this is not new, but for any of us who are joined us for the first time or it's been a while, just as a reminder, this four-year partnership is a joint initiative between the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education, CPE Student Success Collaborative, the Kentucky Community Technical College System, KCTCS, and the JED Foundation, and the Healthy Minds Network. And we started this a number of years ago. It's really first of its kind on how do we think about reaching all campuses, different shape sizes to nearly 200,000 students. All efforts are informed by data gathered by the Healthy Mind Study, a study out of the University of Michigan that studied student attitudes and behaviors around mental health over time. And we had two simultaneous strategies, and it's oftentimes sort of hard to explain to someone who hasn't been sort of in it. But we've really been delighted to accomplish and help think through, strategize with a statewide strategy for 25 institutions across Kentucky, and then for KCTCS to deploy its first ever mental health strategy across its 16 colleges. Two strategies that are reaching full alignment and again collaboration. And then together, CP and KCTCS hold annual day-long convenings to share accomplishments, again, bridge connectedness, share resources, and so we all can be together in person. So we love that moment to kind of reflect on the full year together each year. Next slide. So a little bit about the JED Foundation, again, as a reminder. Again, we were brought in to sort of consult and advise on how we can think about this work and strengthen our work towards student mental health. But we're a nonprofit that protects emotional health and prevents suicide for our nation's teens and young adults. Next slide. And these are our founders, Phil and Donna Satow, and they lost their son Jed to suicide in 1998 when he was a sophomore in college. And at the time, there was really no standard model for campus suicide prevention. They brought together a ton of experts. They looked at what the Air Force was doing to combat suicide and prevent it, and think about what do we have to do to kind of think what would it take to build a safety net across colleges and universities. And since then, we've really expanded to high schools, boarding schools, community-based organizations, Greek life, you name it. And we were founded in 2000, and been going strong ever since. Next slide. So the uniqueness of our approach in Kentucky, and I say this every time, and we have to update this slide every time because we keep becoming more unique, if it even that makes sense. But we have six schools in Kentucky who are doing our signature JED campus program, again, based on where JED was built when we started this. We realized, campuses needed support. So six of them are doing this strategic planning process built on assessment, data, focus groups, campus visit, and each having an individualized strategic plan towards advancing all the efforts around our comprehensive approach. And together, we've used sort of what the schools are learning and gleaning over the last few years, and we've accomplished sort of bridging it all together through two in-person convenings and through these community practices, again, to merge and blend everything that we're kind of learning and engaging in. And then the 16 KCTCS schools really thought about this uniquely and said, well, we'd like to first start by thinking about our Healthy Mind study and what are our students saying, and then bridging that and bringing them to their own communities of practices. So we've had 4 COPs to date, short for community practice, 8 task force meetings and growing. And again, all evolved into 2 strategies. So at the end of these 4 years, I think we're going to eventually nail how do we talk about this in under 2 minutes. But I just have to say, it's quite a lot of work. We're all dedicated, we're all supportive of one another, and we're advancing each week by the minute. So I really appreciate sort of all the time invested in this. Next slide. So I'm not going to go through everything we've done because we share the slides and we kind of been in it, but you can see this really started really in summer 2023 when we thought like what could we do to make this really unique and tailored and individualized. And sort of we've gone from community practice to in-person events to data collecting to just task force meetings to now guiding team meetings. I mean, it's been incredible. So I really encourage people when you leave today's call and future calls, try talking about this, try investing in this because you never know who's going to listen or who wants to be engaged or wants to learn more. Because again, these are open to you all and your colleagues. Next slide. And then our 11th one is today. So we're going to celebrate. We always celebrate by just, again, welcoming new people who've come, reminding that everything is about us and collaborating and keeping this space thriving. So we always like to just take a picture. If you're all willing and able, if you can just turn on your video, if you need a second to get prepared. But we want to include everyone. And again, another milestone.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and take the screenshot. Oop. All right. I'll go 1, 2, 3, and then I'll snap it. All right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Of course.
I think we're kicking it off to Ashley.
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
And good afternoon. I'm Ashley O'Neill, serving as the Associate Director for the collaborative at the CPE, Council on Post-Secondary Education. Just to introduce our speakers for the next few moments to share with our group here today about faculty and staff training and some of the things that they're doing. And I'm super excited because I do believe we have some faculty who will share with us today who are no secrets in the mental health space and wellness space that I feel like you guys, if you don't already know, these are rock stars and are truly of the work that they will share with you today. So no introductions needed, but they are on the screen here for you. We will first hear from Dr. Bob Olstein, who serves as the Assistant Vice President for Student Care and Wellness, and also the Dean of Students at Northern Kentucky, who will then be followed by Dr. Laura Vance, who is the Dean of Students at Eastern Kentucky. And I've had the privilege of working with them in different capacities over this last year, and I know that they are amazing at what they do, and I'm excited for them to share with you today. So I will pass it over to Bob.
All right, thanks, friends. And thank you so much for the time. For the members of my team that are on the call, you're not allowed to correct anything I say. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you again for the opportunity, y'all. I appreciate it. We can move on as we think about what we're trying to do here at Northern Kentucky University in the next slide to help support campus capacity related to student well-being. So we can move on. I don't know. I don't click. Yeah, somebody else clicks. Thank you, whoever is clicking. So really our effort started as a bit of a, I like to call it grassroots. I'm a middle manager, so it's not really grassroots, but started as an opportunity through some organizational changes that we were experiencing a few years ago. And we have all of these very strong pockets of care on our campus. We have, the folks in our counseling center. We have a University Connect and Persist office who works strongly with our advising leads to make sure that students are getting the academic and sort of financial advice that they need to be successful in those ways. And so really what we did is we as a university said, we need to find one pathway to get anybody on our campus to be able to access supportive services for our students. Instead of, oh, I know Peg, or I know Jim Parker, or I know Nick Bliven. We need to figure out what is that pathway that anyone across our campus can refer a student for support. And so we at NKU created, excuse me, not we, NKU created the Help and Or system, which is a one-stop web page with functionally 3 buckets of care, of services available. And So moving, and the website's available online. I know that picture is hard to see. I'm not intending for you to read it, but just sort of the three columns are the goal here, of moving left to right, physical safety or psychological safety. So like those emergency resources. The middle column being those academic or financial resources, some of those things that our partners in University Connect and Persist might lead communications with. And then the far right column is I don't know, or personal concern, or something else that a student's experiencing where we might need a little bit more of an analysis to figure out the best way to support that student, including possible, issues of interpersonal violence or possible experiences of sexual misconduct, things like that. Just trying to make sure that we are covering all bases for what a student might need. And so the Help in North program was started, and we figured out, okay, we also need a way to help folks build capacity that might not be ready for that type of referral, right? We want to make sure that we are both supporting the students that get referred, but also supporting our campus community to make those referrals more easily, make them easier to do. And so we came up with the idea for the Help in North Champions program. Shout out to Bellarmine, Emily Werner. I borrowed this and always want to cite my sources. Emily Werner at Bellarmine is who I borrowed this program from. Marlana, I don't know. Maybe it's just Emily. Maybe it was somebody else. I don't know. But tell Emily I cited my source. The opportunity, though, for us was to build some consistent spaces to talk about those experiences that students have and might present, might disclose something to a faculty member or might disclose something to a staff member. And so figuring out how we could create more consistent developmental support for student care across campus. In particular, we have a high contingency of instructors in our courses that are part-time. They might work at several other institutions in our region, and we want them to have some understanding for NKU, or if not, at least they know where Help in North reporting is. So that's how we got started, and so we moved from there, moving on in the slides, to create just some things that we thought might be interesting for folks. Some things that we've done in the past year and a half behind the scenes with the behavioral intervention team. So our behavioral intervention team members literally sat in a room and had invited people in virtually and in person, be like, okay, what questions do you have? Because a lot of the work on the behavioral intervention team happens in confidential spaces. And so let's talk about those hypotheticals. Let's have those conversations. Mental health first aid is a huge part of what we do. We're fortunate to work with regional partners to offer that at no cost to our students, faculty or staff, at least once a semester. And so we're grateful for that partnership. We do QPR suicide prevention through our counseling center. Thank you to our staff for helping train folks up on QPR. But then we also noticed that some of these sessions where we would offer it on a regular basis, or like once or twice a semester, where our attendance would suffer over time. People would sort of get it, and then next year when we offer it, they'd be like, "No, I did it last year." It's like, okay, well, refreshers are always helpful, but let's try to maybe rethink some of these things. And so we started adding other pieces, responsive by design, talking about universal design in academic and non-academic spaces. We talked about strengthening classroom communication. We had one of our instructors, our professors in healthcare communication come in and sort of talk about how to navigate maybe a challenging conversation in a classroom environment. We always have our North Swan's Prevention Center offer to do bystander intervention training for anyone on our campus, navigating conflict with confidence. A very successful session this year, we connected with our first generation student initiatives office to talk about navigating transitions, empowering adult and transfer students, because a lot of our adult and transfer students are also first gen students. And so we wanted to sort of check in and meet a need there. We had a lot of great participation in that session. And then a legacy one for me, I came up through a student conduct lens and student affairs work. And so I have a keen interest in how folks manage secondary traumatic stress. And so I always like to share about trauma-informed basics with folks. We're still working to connect with our social work faculty to sort of beef that up a little bit. But we do our best as non-clinicians to try and explain what we can do. And then we're working on some sessions in the future. In particular, our Director of Student Wellness Education, who would be sharing this presentation with you, but she's in a classroom presentation right now. Came up with some next level tips for student success. So Amanda, Dr. Kilmer is an individual who, before she was in her role, was an academic advisor and still is an adjunct instructor. And so she has a lot of experience to draw from in terms of how we can support from a faculty or a staff lens individual students and their needs. And then I'm working on a presentation around the language of behavior. So as a former sort of investigator, behavioral interventionist, trying to help folks understand that maybe the behavior that's happening in the class, they're actually trying to communicate something. And how can we, sort of learn to listen to that communication sometimes as we're able. So those are just some of the things that we've come up with. Again, not an exhaustive list, but our attempt at trying to connect with folks. Next. Excuse me, next slide. Thank you. Just some data, because I love some good data. We've been able to serve folks. Our largest population of folks are our staff members. They were our early adopters. Part of that, I think, is the nature of the types of things that we offered, sort of connected with staff a little bit faster. And this year we are heavy into co-creation with faculty. And so that's, I think, the piece that I would offer has been a benefit for us in this work. In both growing our faculty participation, but then also making sure that we're not just coming at it from the quote unquote student affairs-y lens. That we're coming at it from a more informed perspective, from a classroom instruction perspective. And again, learning as we go. So we are in year 2 of this process, or of this program. Participation plateaued. Spring 2025. I forget what year it is. Sorry, spring 2025. We had a plateau, and so we really worked over the summer. Amanda really worked over the summer to co-create with faculty and departmental co-sponsors to try and build those capacity numbers. And so we had a renewed interest from 45 new people this fall. And the good thing, and I know I answered sort of in the partly cloudy on our Mentimeter earlier, but we are starting to do some assessment of this work and really get into what folks are learning, how folks are connecting. And so in the first year, folks, we had a strong impact on people's confidence or ability to make those referrals, but we're continuing that assessment, develop those partnerships. I would be remiss if I didn't say we're trying to make sure this fits in with our JED campus plan that I just got the draft of 2 days ago. Mad props to Michelle, for my JED friends, for helping us out with that. And then just sustainability planning, because right now it's relying on the folks that do the work already. And so trying to figure out how we can create a little bit more sustainable plans for how we can continue to do the work without as much of the effort that it's taken to get it off the ground, because it's been a lot of fun. Next up, I think this is almost my last one. Yeah, my last one. So just that we kind of did it, if you will. And I know someone might say that I'm selling myself short on this, but we did it based on my student activities background. Like we really did it from that lens. We were like, hey, we know this is a need. We're going to give this a shot and sort of improve, pilot it and try again, and sort of improve from a continuous perspective. And we're finding some of the same things. And I think, Laura, you'll speak to what you've been able to work on and achieve at Eastern. We're now coming into learning some of the things that Laura started with. And so I think that's a great way from my perspective, about how our institutions can sort of respect the cultures that we have and navigate this in different ways, potentially based on how we're doing this work. But that's the Helping Horse Champions program. We are, by the way, still seeking thesaurus suggestions for what's higher than a champion because we have people in our second year that are still attending things. We've come up with guardian, but I think that's the only other word we've figured out. So if you have that, you can leave it in the Zoom chat. All right. I will cease unless there are questions before Laura. I also don't want to steamroll anything if Laura's just ready to go. Okay, this is me hitting mute. I'm Ashley. I'm just muting myself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. As Bob was talking, I was sitting here thinking, I can't remember if I took the apostrophe out of Colonel's Care or not, because we're still, with our initiative, we're still in such an early stage that we're arguing about apostrophes. I was an English teacher, so you can imagine how emotionally charged that can be. We also had a full discussion today about what we want to call the folks that finish our training. Because I said, well, NKU took champion, so we can't get 3 Cs. I don't know what we're going to do. So that's where we are for a similar training program that looks like NKUs, and we're really excited about this. If you go to the next slide. We started with some current practices, and a big part of our faculty buy-in for a lot of the training that we do comes just from us being responsive to things that they say to me, whether that's they see me out on campus or I lead some other kind of training and they're like, well, what about this? And also looking at who our faculty are and their areas of expertise and tapping into that, because the more they're engaged with these things, the more buy-in we get. A good example that I like to use is our early alert system has over an 85% participation rate from faculty, and that's unheard of. And it's because it was developed in-house with faculty in the room. And there's always follow-up on it. So honestly, when we drop below 90, we get a little miffed. It's just part of our culture here that those ways to raise flags for students and then showing faculty we're doing something about it. So one of the strategies that we started with and heavily invested in, like Bob was talking about, is mental health first aid. So there are, I think, 4 of us now on campus, 2 in workforce development, and myself and one of our counselors in the counseling center that are mental health first aid trainers. So we offer that across campus. We'll do 2 sessions in January. If you decide to get the training to become a trainer, make sure that it's not just you leading one of these sessions in person. Is a very long day. So we team teach these. At this point, we have over 100 faculty and staff that are mental health first aid certified. And that's made a big difference to people's confidence in responding to student mental health needs. People, I think, tend to try not to respond at all because they're worried about saying the wrong thing, when it's that training just encourages you, no, as long as you're referring somebody to professional support, just that active care and recognizing what some of the issues might be is what matters. And we just get really great responses. I need to pull all the assessment from those because it's built into the mental health first aid system and start to run those numbers. But I know that it's been really well received on campus. Also, a couple years ago, I started developing one-pagers. Now, please note they're not really one page; they're usually 2. But they're in graphic design documents about different kinds of needs that students have that faculty struggle with in the classroom in responding. Now, as it turns out, when you read these, faculty say, well, these are just good strategies for any student. Like, I know they are. Clear behavioral expectations, clear guidelines, working in chunks, those kinds of things. But those have been really well received too. We started with autism spectrum disorder, and just if a student is stimming and needs to step out in the hall, what does that mean? And how a faculty member or an instructor can respond to that student's need in that time. And they're just really quick overviews of what this might look like, well, what the terminology means, what it might look like in the classroom, and then just some simple strategies to try. If they choose, it's up to them, but those have been really appreciated. Generalized anxiety also has some grounding techniques. What do I do if a student has a panic attack in my classroom? And there are really simple steps that you can use. It just helps people feel a little bit more confident in how they respond to student needs, without feeling like, well, I'm not a professional, so maybe I shouldn't do anything. Well, no, taking students through a sensory, de-escalation is actually quite simple to do. And then please refer them to professionals on that piece. And then I've been leading faculty training as well. So if you go to the next slide, this is one of the ways that we've gotten some great buy-in with our instructors on campus. I go to new faculty orientation. We table there, and then I also lead new faculty workshops about student support services on campus. So new faculty get this great overview of all of these different resources on campus. They don't have to remember it all. We have a student wellness website that's kind of our one-stop click place where they can find basic needs support or different kinds of mental health support, what the student health services does, and those types of things. But it shows them that we are viewing our students holistically. As a result of these, we get a large number of referrals from new faculty. New faculty will often email me and say, hey, I'm dealing with this and I'm not real sure what I need to do. And then I can refer that faculty on to somebody else on campus, that, especially if it's academic affairs issue. But we continue to offer that training in different workshop series in our Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning. I meet with department chairs. I'll respond personally to our behavioral intervention team referrals. So if I notice a new faculty name that has submitted a SAYIT referral, ours is a student assistance and intervention team, I'll email that instructor. I'll thank them. I can't go into too much detail about what the follow-up looks like, but just to reassure them that we're following up. And if it's actually a conduct need, they might have this behavior due to their mental health, but if it's disrupting the classroom, that needs to be addressed from a conduct perspective too. Doesn't mean it's going to be punitive. Emily Jo Davis, our Assistant Dean of Students and Director of Student Conduct's on this call, and she might just have an educational conversation with the student and document that conversation was had. And so that we're making sure we address the behaviors that often come as a result of some of the struggles that students are having. We also listen to the training topics that faculty suggest. We try to attend different kinds of faculty meetings, especially always when we're invited, we're there. And I'm going to one of our regents is having a faculty meeting today, just kind of an open conversation. And I'm going to hang out there and listen to what faculty are asking our regent, because that's good information that I can take away to provide more support to our instructors. And then the next slide. And we are working on a very early stage of a Colonel's Care program like NKU's Help a Norse program, where we're going to have designations to faculty and staff. Ours is a level 1 and level 2. We don't have any names yet. So champion, guardian, we're not there. But our level 1, you're going to notice a theme here. QPR training. Almost all of our students are QPR trained. It's part of our freshman seminar course. So by the time it's hopeful that by the time they get to their final year here, that they've had QPR training somewhere along the way. Mental health responses, just how to different responses to students with a mental health need, especially in how to refer them, walking them to the counseling center. The counseling center number is available 24/7, giving that kind of information. Basic needs support, large number of students that will indicate food or housing insecurity to an instructor. And so what do I do about that? And how do I refer them to the kernels cover? Our intervention team processes and referrals. I love the behind the scenes idea, totally stealing that from Bob, because they do wonder what that meeting looks like and how we're responding. And we try to be really transparent with it, but it still remains kind of this mystique, and it doesn't need to be. Trauma-informed responses, which I think there's going to be a link provided to you to the Kentucky Cabinet. They will lead train the trainer programs for that, so you can take that on your own campus for free. And self-care and caring for colleagues, that's another element that I want to add to that, is what it looks like when we care about each other. And then our level 2 would be full mental health first aid training, the full hit. I want to do something on having difficult conversations. Our students don't like having difficult conversations with each other, and instructors don't like having difficult conversations with students. And I really want to do something about that to help people feel a little bit more equipped, and strategies to support neurodiverse learners as that number of need grows on our campus. Those have become increasingly important to equip our instructors with some of those skills or strategies. And making sure I said everything I need to say. Oh, harkening back to the one pagers too. We have faculty on campus that their area of research is autism. They weighed in on those one pagers. Generalized anxiety disorder. Our psychology professors, along with the counseling center and our Center for Student Accessibility, I'm tagging in faculty members that this is their research. And that really helps that level of buy-in too, knowing that that faculty had input on these kinds of things, as well as our training, has been really important. One of our occupational therapy professors had the mental health first aid training way back. She's from Australia, which is where it was born. And so way back, and now almost that whole department has gotten trained because of her saying, oh, I'm going to go do this again. I want to see what it looks like in America to have this training. And then all of a sudden the whole department has buy-in. Not that that's surprising from OT. We're very wired that way. But some of those early adopters has made a big difference in some of these efforts. And I think that's what I've got.
Sorry, Laura, you reminded me of on the levels I forgot to mention in mine. And this is re-emphasizes that it was a student activities idea in my head. We have stickers, magnets, and mugs. Those are our and I asked for lapel pins because I'm weird about pins. But so again, thinking about those ways to reinforce, but then also communicate, whether it be to a student as we continue to hopefully gain hold with the program. The magnets on my door, so people know that I'm gonna respond in a certain way, right? But then also just that advertising then to the other department members, right, or to the other staff members, like, hey, what's that? I will say, and you mentioned the buy-in early. One of the reasons I think our staff buy-in was very quick for us is I had a history on our staff Congress governance group. And so I showed up like 5 times to staff Congress and advertised it. And so, those things definitely matter as well. Those relationships that you or your teams may already have across campus, those are going to be easy ways to connect these programs for you as you may think about them, or as you may be doing them. Thank you for letting me add on. You reminded me of things I forgot, so thank you.
Thank you. The prep meeting for this was great because I was taking furious notes as Bob was talking, and then he was asking me questions, and this is the kind of collaboration this group is for.
Laura, you're exactly right. I would first like to thank you and applaud you guys for sharing such great work being done on your campuses. I just hearing you both speak about your passion projects of wanting to help your students, just amazing. And I hope the audience also listening took away some things as well. I know there's just a few moments for, a Q&A, but as I heard you speak and talk about these things, I feel like you inherently already answered the questions on the screen. I heard so much about strategies and engagement and assessing and reassessing and collaboration. And for folks on this community of practice, if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. But I want to know, is there anything else as folks think about how it shows up for their campuses? Any more strategies that you think would be effective? Any pie at the sky type of things that you're thinking about doing? How do you continue to engage faculty in this great work?
So I have a quick thought. It's something that isn't on the slides, but one of our next goals for partnership is connecting with our internal university faculty development office. So our Center for Teaching and Learning, or sorry, the equivalent, they've changed the name, to because again, we're either former or never been instructors, right? And so how can we make sure that what we're sharing is informed from an instructional lens, as well as arguably the happy byproduct of that is potentially having other people see, oh, this is, this coming from Denise. So maybe I might participate, or sorry, that's the director. It's coming from Denise's office. And so maybe I participate as opposed to that, bleeding heart Bob guy, might come off differently in terms of that partnership.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think that's a really good point. I remember a time at U of L working in conjunction with that office as well. And I think that's a good point because faculty are students themselves in a way. And I think that's a great way to wrap around learning for them and in partnership. So yeah, that's a great. I'd like to take this opportunity for anyone else here on this call with us. Feel free to unmute if you have questions for either Bob or Laura, or drop it in the chat. I'll happy to read it. But yeah, take this opportunity to ask them questions. Yes. Oh, I saw Erica's hand, and so go ahead.
Well, it was mean to see if other people would jump in
Yeah.
first. But thank you, Bob and Laura, for this excellent presentation. It sounds like you've done so much work and it's still ongoing and you're learning a lot. So I appreciate that. Laura, this one's for you, but Bob, feel free to weigh in as well. You mentioned that there are 4 trainers, and I was wondering, I guess, in terms of buy-in, are faculty incentivized at all to become trainers themselves? I mean, sort of how is that message coordinated? And do you want to have more than 4? I mean, is the goal to advance that? And what's the feedback been on that process? Because, when I did research in this area, when I found that faculty sometimes want to call out that like they've saved 12 students and they want to talk about those stories and they want to show the need and the value of classroom integration with mental health. So just wondering if you're sensing that from just conversation with the faculty. Again, what's your goal to bring out more trainers?
The mental health first aid training is quite a commitment. So you have to lead 3 sessions a year. And there's quite a bit of administrative task behind it too. So we do the hybrid model where they'll do 2 hours of training online, and then they do it's supposed to be 5.5 hours in person. But if you ever lead anybody in higher education and doing anything, it's going to take longer because people will want to chat, and that's good and healthy. So you're really committing then that the pre-time and then a full day of leading training. We're breaking them into half days now, so it's a little bit more manageable. There were just two of us, and now our workforce development area has some trainers to lighten up the load a little bit. Um, and perhaps faculty might want to get trained. There is a financial consideration for it to pay for the training. Um, but I fear once they would see the time commitment, they'd say, I don't have time to do that in addition to my regular teaching load. Um, but I think we do need a couple more on campus at some point. Like Bob was talking about, you're going to plateau, and then you still need to keep your credential up by leading 3 sessions a year. And so if you have too many people, then it can be difficult to keep up with those credentials. Rachel and I've been managing pretty well so far to meet as much of the need as we can. But I think once people realize, oh, wait, I'm committing to a full day in this training, so I've really got to make sure I clear my day. Then sometimes they're like, is there something a little less than that? Of course, not with the certification, but there are other things and other models that can be offered too.
Thank you.
I was just gonna add, we pitched for some campus staff to be trained as trainers. And we at one point, this was just post-COVID, we were able to have some folks trained through an internal grant process, but then those folks retired. And so so that's why we have partnered with our local Mental Health America chapter to have them as long as we get like I think there's a minimum number of people and they'll run it for us because it meets their goals and it meets our goals. So that's just another again way of thinking about it. We would love to have people on campus. We just haven't been able to fund that quite yet. Again, fund it again quite.
Yeah, if you invest in it, and make sure you're investing in people that you think are going to stick around. We'd originally trained 3 of us, and then one left, and they take their credential and go somewhere else. And so it's because of the financial. It's a little over $2,000 because of that commitment. We want to make sure it's going to be somebody that's going to stick around as well as have the time to do it.
Yes, all important things to think about as you continue to do the work. I'd like to say we have time for maybe one more question. If anybody has anything they'd like to ask in the chat or unmute or raise your hand, I think. And if not, definitely feel free to follow up with Bob or Laura. I think their emails will be on one of these slides. If not, happy to provide that information to you as well. Because again, a lot of good work being shared here today. And I know it's a lot to soak in. So again, I appreciate everybody and Bob and Laura for sharing your programs with us today. I will pass it back over to Stephanie.
Thank you, Ashley. And yes, Dr. Vance and Dr. Olson, if you're willing to answer any inquiries, I don't believe we have your info on the slides, but if you're willing to put that in the chat, that'd be awesome. All right, so now we're going to wrap up with some resource sharing. And thank you. That's on the chat. As we're sharing resources, if you have anything yourself that you'd like to share with us, that'd be awesome. Go ahead and put that in the chat too. I want to start off by highlighting JED's faculty guide. Honestly, it just offers practical guidance for faculty in supporting student mental health. And really, you can incorporate this in any modules you have for training for your faculty and staff. There's also some things there about postvention strategy that you can take and maybe embed it into your wellness curriculum. And thank you, Erica, for putting that in the chat. And the slides will also have links, so don't worry about taking down those links there. I also wanted to highlight a resource that Dr. Vance sent over from the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. It honestly offers a really well thought out explanation of trauma as a response. And again, you can incorporate this in your trainings for faculty and staff to really understand further as students navigate this. And yeah. Another example we found that we often share with our JED campuses too is the University of Michigan Dearborn Faculty Toolkit. What we really like about this is that it has, dialogue, as you can see to the right in that picture. It's really practical for identifying and supporting and referring students in distress. Again, it can be a core resource for faculty trainings as they navigate these conversations with students. And next up, we also have the University of British Columbia. It's a teaching practice that promotes student well-being. This is more of like an action planning toolkit. Once you open that up, it has like check boxes, lists that you can really rely on. And really, this is awesome if you're building your own COP for faculty learning and really getting those initiatives built up. So it's really great for that. Next up, we have a wellness statement for your syllabus or syllabi. These are really awesome to let your students know that if they are in distress, faculty or staff are happy to step in and respond and refer to students. This does not have a link, but that picture right there has the full statement that you can go ahead and adopt and use in your syllabus or syllabi. And you could really adapt it as a standard wellness statement across all syllabi, and it adds in like where to go, what number to call, what website to go, and oh yes, we definitely can, Chris. So yeah, it's really great to just adopt and grab. And we have a couple more resources, but in the interest of time, we want to make sure we capture your feedback. The slides will have all of that. We want to just give a big thank you again to our guests, Dr. Vance and Dr. Alston, for being here with us today. Please complete that post survey. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. We want to know how this session went for you, how we can continue to adapt it to your needs and as things evolve. We'll hang back for questions, but yeah, if you have a chance to complete that survey, that would be so amazing. Thank you, Ashley, Erica. Anything to close us with?
No, just wanted to take the time to say thank you for attending. If you are headed into the holiday season, we will see you in the new year, 2026. I think our next community of practice will be late January, so it'll give you time to adjust to those new students who will be excited for that spring semester. And we will have a topic, I believe it's is it substance misuse and recovery? Yes, so we're bringing that back also by popular demand. So if you have anything that you'd like for us to think about, dig into, again, send us an email. Happy to do some research and get that topic also ready to share with you guys again. So thank you for being with us here today, and we hope you took something back that you are eager to share with your campus partners.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.